A crew that consists of the mission commander, Barnett, a biologist, David, and a medical researcher, Zoe, travel to Mars on a 2-year scheduled journey. They are in the MTS-24 created by a company, and they speak with a representative named Jim. Before taking off, they confirm with all the personnel and eventually take off. Barnett communicates with Jim to command the separation, which seems tacky at first as they all tremble, but it eventually continues well. Later, Barnett notices the main engine is underperforming, and she tells Jim this, and sometimes later it starts performing. They travel towards the tether. As they arrive around the tether, Barnett comments, "Here we go," and she orders the king-fish separation, which separates the long tethers to the ship's hull to act as a counterweight. During this process, David gets sick and vomits on waste in front of him. After their launch vehicle settles on the artificial gravity, Zoe happily jumps at Barnett, congratulating her for their successful takeoff before they all leave the operating room to their respective cabin. As they open the door to the cabin, Zoe helps David with some of his loads and asks him if he is feeling well. She checks through the vehicle. Then she attaches her pictures on her part of the cabin before going to join the other two. She offers David a tea in a cup engraved with her alma mater's name despite knowing her school competes with David's school, and they laugh about this before they all go to give their launch reports. They sit together and connect the call. While giving her report, Barnett says that sometimes launching is tacky, but with her level of experience, she was able to take off successfully. She talks about her first 2 trips and how it has aided her experience, and she comments that she is more than grateful to go on her last trip with experienced young ones, who she feels proud of what they can do. Zoe speaks about how happy she is to be on the trip. She says she never wanted to apply, but she eventually gave in because she felt it would be nice for her to be rejected by the Hyperion. She says she never dreamed of taking her medical research out of the Earth, but now that the opportunity is out for her, she will make good use of it as several medical items on Mars will be of great use to humans on Earth. David speaks about how he feels 2 years is a long time for him to spend without his wife, but he is grateful for the opportunity to be on that trip with a great team, and he is sure going to make good use of it. After their briefing, Barnett says she is confident about her team, and out of the thousands that applied for that opportunity, she is glad she chose the best 2. They all go on their respective duty in the vehicle, and Barnett takes a tour around the engine room. She notices blood on the floor by the engine room, and she figures the blood is coming from the modules. She takes a screw and unscrews the modules and finds something she never expected. She sees a man hung between 2 modules, and the device that scraps carbon dioxide from the air in the ship holds him between the modules. She is shocked as the man falls on her and breaks the device. She screams for help, and her crew comes to help her. Zoe and David immediately take the man away for treatment as he is already unconscious. Meanwhile, carbon dioxide spreads around the ship, and Barnett looks at the fault done. She goes to join her colleagues, and she sees the ID card of the man. Upon checking the card, she figures he is Michael Adams. She speaks to Jim about the injury, and she finds out there is damage to the functional module and a significant amount of atmospheric O2 vented from the MTD, and there is a breach in the hull. She asks if the stowaway away in her ship poses any harm to her. She asks who he is and if there is a reason why she should restrain him when he wakes. Although he is presently unconscious, they do not have any information as regards whether or not he is on the ship intentionally. Barnett is also injured from the hit, and her hands are broken. Zoe treats her hands, and she wonders why Barnett isn't screaming in pain. They all come together to discuss about if Michael is a threat or not. Barnett gets a notification that the CO2 is at 2%, and she asks David to repair it through some alternate mode before they go to bed. In the night, Michael wakes. He struggles to walk and walks toward the end of the ship, where he sees the galaxy. He realizes the ship is taken off, and she screams. His noise attracts Zoe, who meets him to calm him down. She tells him he is on their ship and he is injured. Barnett arrives to ask him some questions. He tells her he is the launch support engineer and he wanted to pin the engine but didn't realize he wasn't on life support. He explains how he got trapped and asks them the time the journey started. They informed him they had taken off about 12 hours ago. He screams that he needs to get home and tells them he needs to get to his sister, who will be lonely at that point. Barnett explains to him that there is no way she is turning back as she doesn't even have the fuel to get them back. He insists that they are on a 2-year journey and he can't leave his sister for that long, so Barnett tells him she will get back to him after speaking to Hyperion. Barnett and her crew sit to talk, and they try to figure out if he is innocent or not. Michael comes to join them. Barnett tells him she has spoken to Hyperion, and they have reached out to his sister, and she will be placed under the care of a full-time guardian until they return, and all the cost will be paid by the company. He appreciates the team and apologizes for how he reacted earlier. He asks if there is anything he could do to make things easier for them over there, and Barnett tells him Zoe will take him around. While showing him around, he and Zoe start talking, and she asks about his sister Ava. Michael works with David around his rack while Barnett and Zoe look around the ship for any damage. They find out a damaged life support assembly, and they speak to Hyperion about it, sending pictures of their CDRA. After that conversation, Barnett goes to call David for an emergency. She asked him how much CO2 his rack could produce in a day. David replies about 90 liters. She asks if he can up his game to about 960 liters, but he tells her it's impossible. She reminds him his mission is to create oxygen on Mars, and he informs her it's with his algae, and he can't use it on the ship because all the equipment needed has been taken to Mars during the first journey. He asks if the CDRA has been destroyed, but she tells him she doesn't know yet, and he should just use bus algae for more oxygen. She instructs him not to tell Michael and Zoe yet. Meanwhile, Michael and Zoe are trying to remove the CDRA. After they remove it, Zoe helps Michael with his injury. David meets with Barnett to ask for his feedback, and he tells her he can only get 550 liters, so she asks him to use the second batch of algae, but he refuses. He says using the second batch won't produce more, and if he uses all, he will only use up all he has for his mission. After exhausting all means to get the ship into proper shape, Barnett calls Zoe and David and informs Zoe of the situation. She tells her the carbon dioxide scrubber has been destroyed, the lithium hydroxide canister is just a short-term alternative, and they all can't survive on the ship till they reach Mars. So she suggests they do away with Michael so the others can survive, but Zoe refuses. She says they should try to find another solution and she won't allow such. After a few days of trying other things, David goes to inform Michael of the situation, telling him that they should all die if he remains on the ship. So he gives him a lethal injection from Zoe's laboratory so he can kill himself painlessly. The following day, Michael goes to speak to his sister, giving her a final goodbye to her. While preparing to kill himself, Zoe comes in and finds out. She stops him and angrily confronts David about what he has done, but David says he is acting for the best of the team, and he has used all his algae in 3 years of his training, and his 2 years on Mars are now wasted. Zoe decides to go to the tether and see if there is oxygen there. She practices how to climb with Michael, but Michael is too weak to climb. She goes to David to ask for his help, and David accepts immediately because his algae are dead and the oxygen they have can only be enough for 2 days. Upon getting to the tether, she finds out there is enough oxygen. David passes her the canister, and they fill 2 canisters with oxygen which will be enough for 2 people till the end of their journey. However, as they happily fill it, they hear an alarm. Barnett tells them it's a solar storm warning and they should leave immediately. While David opts in about leaving, Zoe insists she won't leave without the cylinder filled. She struggles to take the cylinder with David, but they have to drop one of it. During the struggle, the last cylinder falls off and she sits dejected. While Barnett struggles to speak to them, the light goes off, but they luckily survive, and they reassemble inside the ship. In the ship, David tells them there is still an open tank and they can still go there and bring the cylinder. If they get it, 3 people will survive. However, the storm is lethal and the volunteer won't be able to return. Michael volunteers, but Barnett reminds him he isn't trained. David asks Tog. However, Zoe insists she will go because David has a family top and he has to return home. They all hug her as she goes outside to get the cylinder. She passes it inside the ship and she sits by the ship, remembering her statement about how she applied to get rejected while anticipating death.